On this episode of Tiger TV, we talk about youth development and Rickey Henderson.
Hi, Baseball Nation. This is Spiker Helms, where I interview the best in the business, where I try to find out what got them to the top. This is their journey, their stories, and our questions. This is Tiger TV.
Hi everybody, welcome back to another edition of Tiger TV. This is episode 11 and we're at Bellarmine University with head coach Larry Owens. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, I appreciate it.
How's everything going?
Everything's going great.
Season going well?
Yep, season is over. We had a pretty good year. We wrapped it up in the conference tournament this past weekend. Finished a game under 500 overall, but played a really tough schedule, fourth toughest schedule in the country. I think two teams on our schedule were under 500, and we had to deal with some injuries, so we really did a really good job considering, those two things. So we're really happy with where we are and where the program is.
And Coach Owens has a very, very deep historic background, going to all different levels, coached high school, college level, Division I, Division II, JUCO too, right? Correct?
Yep, Coach Junior College.
And then the professional route, independent and in affiliated baseball with the White Sox. And also was a 27th round draft pick with the Atlanta Braves. So fill in the gaps there. What else is there that we need to know about Coach Owens?
Oh heck, I don't know. I mean, after I played, I started coaching in high school. Coached at my high school where I went to school, Jeffersonville High School in Jeffersonville, Indiana. Coached there for 2 years. Helped out with the freshman team and then assisted on the varsity team. Then went on and coached in junior college for a couple years. Spent 3 summers in the Northwoods League in Rochester in 94, 95, and 96. The first 3 years of the league. I was the pitching coach the first 2 years, and then I was the field manager the last year in 96. Went on and got an opportunity to come back home. Lelo Prado was the new head coach at the University of Louisville, so I came here to coach with him for a couple years. In the process, I also went up and coached in the Cape. I was, as well as played up there in '88. I coached there in '97. Played with YD Red Sox and coached with Falmouth Commodores in '97 with Harvey Shapiro. Jeff Weaver pitched for us that year, so that was pretty cool.
And you had Rickey Henderson at one point,
Rickey
right?
Henderson at 05 in San Diego and coaching in independent league baseball. So, coached college baseball for a gap of about 11 years with stops at the University of Louisville, Austin Peay State University. At the time it was Southwest Missouri State, now it's Missouri State. At the University of Memphis was my last college stop with Dave Anderson, former big leaguer, and he went on to coach in the major leagues again after our stop at Memphis. And he kind of prompted me, being with him kind of prompted me to maybe give professional baseball swing. I didn't really know if I could do it or not. From talking to him, he felt I could, so it opened up some opportunities. And he actually knows Terry Kennedy, who managed professionally in the minor leagues, but then had a 14-year big league career as an all-star catcher. Became a really good friend of mine. He was the manager of the San Diego Surf Dogs, an independent league, which kind of took over I think it was the Western League. It was called the Golden League. So I was there the first year of it in 2005. Rickey Henderson played for us. It was a great experience. And then that parlayed into a scouting job with the Red Sox, and then which in turn, relying on a hitting coach with us in San Diego from '05, Dan Chalowski. He knew some guys in player development with the White Sox, and I did kind of too, and so that kind of gave me an opportunity to get back on the field, and I spent 7 years as a pitching coach in the minor leagues with the White Sox, 4 years in A-ball in Kannapolis and 3 years in rookie ball in Bristol.
And what's it like going from, because I with the Tigers, I coached from high school all the way down to an 8-year-old, but you coached Rickey Henderson to a freshman in high school. I mean, you were there. Like, what is that like going from Rickey Henderson to? Well,
to be clear, I gave him high fives when he scored runs. That's about all I did, and I threw BP.
But still, I mean, you're around the guy. You're around him on an everyday basis, and then you go from that to high school or a college player. What's the difference there?
I mean, the difference, and I tell these guys here, I mean, there's not a huge difference. There's not as much difference as you would think. I mean, obviously, if you're talking about a Hall of Fame Major League Baseball player, that's, those guys are special. But the things that those guys do at the higher levels in professional baseball and the big leagues, they're just very, very consistent with what they do. The guys at the lower levels aren't as consistent. They don't get as many opportunities to be as consistent. They don't get to go out and play every single day for 5 to 9 months. So those guys, consistency would be the big thing. There are guys in the big leagues that throw, well, not as many anymore, but there are guys in the big leagues that do throw a baseball 88, 89 miles an hour. They do throw it below 90. And there are plenty of amateurs that throw it below 90. The difference is, consistency. There are guys in the lower levels that can hammer ball and hit it really far and run really fast and throw really hard, but the consistency and the ability to play the game is what separates, I think, guys at a really high level than the amateur. But the amateur still has time to develop, and so now you're looking for tools. As a scout, you want to look for tools that project, and you have an opportunity to develop. And if they can develop into a consistent baseball player, then you have something.
And then having those pro scout eyes and those college scout eyes, is that what you're looking for? Is the consistency, or is just finding that one tool and saying, you know what, I think I could do something with that?
Well, I mean, I think anybody would be crazy to run away from tools. I mean, tools are great, but I think sometimes we're also we do things the wrong way in regards to we get too hung up on tools and we ignore a kid that can play baseball. Yeah. I think a great example, somewhat recently, but going back a little bit, would be Dustin Pedroia at Arizona State. I mean, you certainly have to be a really good baseball player to play at Arizona State, but at the same time, I mean, he had very, very little big league tools, so to speak.
Yeah,
I mean, a small guy,
but
I mean, I guess a humongous heart and a really, really good baseball player that.
And be able to beat out Ian Kinsler, who's also a major leaguer too. I mean, having those two guys at the one position, dueling it out, that had to be something fun to watch down there. I mean, it's interesting.
So it's really neat. But I'd say the big separator is consistency. And if at some point we would, maybe give kids that, are good baseball players opportunity, we would probably see more guys at higher levels that don't have all these fantastic tools that are just good baseball players, but that's kind of part of it.
What's it like for Coach Owens on a summer day scouting? What's it like for you?
Well, I'm fortunate that I have a really good assistant, Terry Davis, who goes out and does.
And Terry is behind the mic, doing the emails and hustling right now, which I absolutely love.
He's recruiting. So I'm fortunate enough that I don't have to get out and do a lot of that stuff. I'll primarily take care of some things in the area, some tournaments or guys that we need to see someone in the area, and I'll get out if we need to go get out. But Terry and our other assistant Nick Eversole do a good job of getting out and seeing guys. But so I don't do as much recruiting as the rest of our staff does.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, your staff is hustling all over.
Oh yeah,
trying
absolutely.
to see as many players as they possibly can.
And as a result, like here, for example, we've knocked out. We knocked out our recruiting class. We were a player or two away from being done in November for this year, for this next year, so this 2016 class. So TD gets out and hustles, and we want to get that thing locked up as soon as we can.
And one question a lot of our guys ask when they look for schools is player development. What should they be doing to get to that point to be able to be seen by you guys? Like what is it from going from youth, high school? How do you go on that path to get to a positive influence to be able to even have a shot to be even seen?
You have to have a uniform. You have to have a chance.
Yeah.
You have to have a chance. That's what we always say. If you don't have a uniform, you don't have a chance. So as long as you're playing, that's a good thing. And I think playing will help your development to a certain degree. I mean, and I think what we're going to get into later on in the discussion today will be, maybe what's lacking, and then those opportunities to develop, or the structure to develop players.
Yeah.
But I mean, as long as they're playing, get out and play and have opportunity. A lot of times, unorganized games are really good, and that can kind of teach you a lot and kind of help your skills. But you have to play. You can't just go out and play on the weekends. You have to get out, and if you're committed to it and it's something you want to do, you got to get out and do it every day. It doesn't have to consume you. It doesn't have to be your life. But if it's important to you, it can certainly take care of you and help pay for some school and for the 4 to 5 of the most important and most fun times of your life. So just play. Playing would be a good thing. Playing and having fun.
Yeah.
And if you're not having fun doing it, it's going to show. And if you're doing it for somebody else, that's not a good reason either. You got to make sure you love it. I think me as well as other folks, we want really great students who love to play baseball. Yeah. And so that's huge.
Yeah. And a lot of people ask me, how do I get these coaches to come on and talk about the programs? And how we got in contact with each other was funny because Twitter, and also the ABCA article that you wrote. And it was very interesting, and it was about development and about the youth and about travel baseball and games and dealing with the high school level. Could you expand on that and what you really see with youth baseball and where it's heading and where maybe we should divert and go somewhere else, or we should go on this path, that we should keep on going on this path?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, if we can get kids out and play the game, I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
I think that's good for the game. The gist of the article was kind of geared towards the travel baseball team and the structure of the travel baseball programs and how it has evolved over the years, and it has become really big. And it's not only baseball; it's in other sports as well. But I would just be careful. And my concern was with that we don't get too consumed with wins and losses and just going out and playing in tournaments to see how many tournaments we can win. Let's not lose sight of the fact that you're trying to keep kids interested in the game. You'd like to help. Maybe for the kid that doesn't, I don't know if I like to play. Well, maybe it creates a little interest in it, in which evolves into a passion. Or you take the kid that's really passionate about it, and then you move him along deeper. But do it through proper player development, and let's not get so focused on wins and losses all the time and how many tournaments we can win and how many tournaments we can go to. Those are fine, and I think those are good things that they're playing. But I think if what we're seeing at the higher levels now are kids that aren't as knowledgeable on
IQ-wise, baseball IQ.
Team fundamentals.
It's not that they're not dumb, it's just that they just don't know the game. Like, example, you go into a tournament and you see a ball down in the right field corner, and you're setting up for a double relay, and they don't know how to do a double relay, but they still win the game. How is that possible? Right. And it's the little things, it's the details of the game that I loved about the article that need to be taught at the young level, because at the high school we see it all the time, is that you don't know how to do a cut.
Right.
You don't know how to do a proper tag onto the bag. So it needs to be addressed. It does need to be addressed. Everyone's so concerned about Championship Sunday rather than the little details.
Yeah, what we were talking about earlier before we started taping is that I think all of us, especially at lower levels, kids. I mean, I did as a kid. You want to emulate the best.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do with our travel baseball programs is emulate the highest level of baseball.
Yeah.
Well, at the highest levels of baseball, aside from probably the big leagues, and then those guys will get out and do that from time to time too, depending on who's running the club. But in the lower levels of the minor leagues, team fundamentals are worked on every day before they come out, before batting practice, where they'll work on cuts and relays, bunt coverages, rundowns, fly ball priorities. All the team fundamental things. And instead of skill work, there's time and a place for skill work, but I think our youth teams get too involved and wrapped up in skill work, and then team fundamentals take a back seat. And then when team fundamentals take a back seat, then their general knowledge of how to play the game go down. Yeah. And then we're teaching things to high school, college, professional players that we don't need to be teaching, or we shouldn't be teaching. There should be a little bit ahead of the game.
What about bunts?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't see a proper bunt in a minor league game, you don't have a contract.
This is a good example. Between my scouting job and with the White Sox, I went over and I threw batting practice for the Louisville Bats. Rick Sweet was the manager here in Louisville years ago. Those guys, they're bunters. Came out early every day before batting practice and bunted during home games. You guys set up the judge machine on the mound. All their guys that could bunt for a hit and guys that would need to bunt got out and bunted early. I mean, they did it. Those guys are AAA baseball players, and they're bunting early, every day.
Yeah.
Now, a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old, hey, I wouldn't expect a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old to come out and practice 6 days a week with a team and work on those things. But if when we are running the teams, or when we're running the tournaments in particular, perhaps maybe there's a way to open up a time,
at least know how to do it.
To at least work on it. I'm sure a lot of people do, but I'm sure there's a lot that don't.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that we could do to improve it. But
maybe find times before the game or in between games or something along those lines, and being able to be just able to time management, because you see at ballparks the kids are just kind of sitting there for the hour before and they're not working on something, and it's like, well, you could use that time to maybe.
Well, for example, before games, I see it all the time, because of the time allotment for the games. Before you're going to play a travel ball game, there's half the team on the left side of the infield, half the team on the right side of the infield, some of them in the outfield, some of them in the infield. And on the infield, they're just hitting them ground balls, and the outfield, they're hitting them fly balls, and that's all they're doing. If we could maybe open up more time, let them take a round of infield.
Yeah.
Because taking a round of infield includes cutoffs and relays. Yep. It includes, common plays that you would have to make on the field. And maybe if you let them do it one day a week, maybe the opener, the first game before they play, just open up some time to have an opportunity to teach something, to develop, and that's where a lot of development goes on, is those times. And then obviously your games are valuable as well.
And you see that in the college game all the time, even especially at the JUCO level. You see that all the time, doing infield, working on cuts, bunts, BP rounds, specialized BP rounds. So yeah, there is a lot of room to grow there. So let's talk about the GLVC. Let's move into that section. You guys just came off of the tournament in Indy. What is it like to be in the GLVC?
I would compare it to mid-major Division I baseball, which is possibly not as deep bullpens. Like guys in the mid-major Division I schools will have a little bit deeper bullpens. You don't see the bullpens as deep here, and I think that trickles down at every level. You could start in the minor leagues to Division I baseball to mid-major D1, D2, lower level D2, all the way down. Those are going to be differences. In the GLVC, I would say it's comparable. I would say it's comparable to the Ohio Valley Conferences simply because I was in it and I've seen it. But pitching, the bullpens would separate it. I mean, our number ones, I mean, we'll have a few guys, you'll see a few guys that'll touch 90, get it above 90 from time to time. Most guys at this level will pitch in the mid to upper 80s. And then, the starters and then the real bullpen guys. It depends on the club, but I would say that's the biggest separator. But the level of play in the GLVC is probably comparable to mid-major Division I baseball.
Yeah, and seeing the conference tournament and how it was laid out, I mean, it just seemed like it was just death brackets everywhere. Like it was just trying to figure out who's going to be the top person to come out of that, and then ended up being Indy, right?
Indy, yeah. Gary Vaught at UIndy has a good club, and they did something. They lost their first game and then won 5 in a row. And to do that and pitch as well as they did is, something, that's...
So,
that's
just getting into the tournament, just getting into the actual tournament, conference tournament, is something, and then being able to even just try to survive and get to that championship game, because you never know what happens in the championship game, because it's a one and done, right? It's not a 3-game series.
No, it's a double elimination tournament.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not a cakewalk. It's not easy. All those tournaments, none of them are easy.
Yeah.
You gotta have a lot of pitch. You gotta have a little luck. You gotta pitch well. So Indy did a good job to get through that thing. And it wasn't when we came into it. I guess you could say Quincy was probably the team to beat.
Yeah.
And they're the number 1 team in our region, and certainly have a great team. But as the tournament kind of transpired, it was kind of wide open. I mean, anybody could have took it. There's a lot of parity in the league.
Yeah. So let's head into the lightning round. Let's head into the section a little bit more about you.
Sure.
So you've been on this journey. You've had a number of great years. If there's one piece of advice you could give to one person or give to a player, what would it be?
Just do things the right way. Respect. Have some respect for the game. The game owes you nothing. If you're going to get involved in it as a player, as a staff member, as a coach, it doesn't owe you anything.
Yeah.
Just be good to it. And be respectful of it and the people around it. Just try to conduct yourself as professionally as you can. You may not be getting paid to do it, and, or you may, but just be a pro. Treat people the right way and do the right things and try to do your best to make good decisions. You're going to make mistakes, and that's fine, and make sure you learn from them. But just be a pro and try to be respectful to the game and the people around it.
What music do you listen to on the bus on a road trip? What are you listening to?
On the bus, I like my favorite. I like old REM, Pearl Jam, that type of stuff. It depends. A little college, 80s, 90s college rock, and then I like a little heavier stuff from time to time, depending on what mood I'm in.
Yeah. Wow. What about movie?
Bull Durham.
Bull
Saw
Durham.
1988.
You gotta love it.
Coached in the Cape in 1988. Went with Mrs. Barbara Ellsworth. She was my host mom. Mrs. E. She's a Cape legend. And then took a few players. One of the notable players that went with us was Denny Nagel. Was playing with us that year, and we all went to see Bull Durham together in 1988.
What's your social platform? What do you like? Where you like to hang out at?
Social platform. You're talking about social media, man. Can you tell by my answer? I have a Facebook and a Twitter, and I kind of check that out and from time to time. But I'm not huge into it. I'm more, I like reading, and it kind of helps me keep up to speed as to what's going on.
Got it.
No, I'm not a big.
Not a big social media guy.
I'll read it, but I'm not locked into it. I don't. My Twitter etiquette's probably not really good. I don't do a lot of the hashtags.
It's a lot of hashtags.
There's some information. I retweeted some info, and you got it.
All right, Coach. Well, thank you so much for coming on board.
No worries, thank you.
And guys, I will link up that article in the show notes below. Also, I'll link in the website, schedule, and Coach Owens' bio. So that's it. That's Tiger TV, episode 11. See you guys soon. Done.
They're over.